Hello, everyone. Welcome to Sociopath Abuse Clarity. And my name is Donna, where I talk all things about narcissism, sociopath, the whole cluster B personality disorder. And I talk about it in different angles. I talk about it in dealing with relationships, families, friends, even in the workplace. Because let me tell you something. I don't care in life where you at, what you're doing. You are going to bump up with one of these crazy people. hmm One of these personality disorders. And all they do is come into your life and cause havoc and destruction, to use and abuse you for something. They could be coming into your life to use you for sex. It could be money. It could be status. It could be a number of things. I don't know exactly what your experience is and what you might have gone through, but they can come to your life for anything. All right? And they know good people. So we're going to be focusing on this character here, this monster by the name of Jeffrey Dahmer. Now, Jeffrey Dahmer's um he's a psychopath, narcissist, sociopath, all of the above, and probably more. Just crazy. All right. And whoever's watching replay, please feel free to hit the like button. And if you have any viewers requests or anything like that, or you need a coaching, feel free to contact me. You can find my email address in the description. Okay. And everything is confidential. All right. So let me get back into this character here. So we're going to be discussing him. And I really want to focus more of the family dynamics of how this monster was created. Okay? Because I always say is a lot of times when these people like these sociopaths and these narcissists, it has something to do with their childhood. Either they was overpraised or they didn't get enough attention. So they grow up to become evil. All right. Then in some cases they don't become evil, but some of the children grow up becoming adults and they become what are you trying to say? Like codependents to these narcissists or sociopaths, psychopaths, or whatever, all of the above, right? So tonight my co-host is the first time is the real Jack Newtown. So he'll be here co-hosting with me. I got him to watch some of the movie and stuff. So he said he'll help me out with this one. So I appreciate it, Jack. So we're just gonna discuss different things and I'm gonna also show some video clips. And like I said, I'm gonna get more focus on the family because it's just insane. I don't understand if I'm a parent and I see people pulling out dead bodies out of my child's home. I'm sorry, I can't support that. See, but that's part of creating this monster. This is why who he is the way he is. All right, so we're gonna start off. I'm gonna show first a clip, and the first clip I'm gonna show is an interview. So give me just a second while I set up here. Okay, now this first video I'm gonna show is Jeffrey Dahmer's last interview. All right, so it's a few minutes here. Let's watch it, and I might pause now and then because basically, to share my thoughts and opinions on it. Okay, and we have Lisa. Blessings to you, girl. Good to have you here this evening. All right, so let's get into this first one here. All right, so this one here was his last interview. I watched some of it, but I didn't get a chance to watch the whole thing. So I'm kind of watching the first time with you, and you can share your thoughts and opinions in the comment section, and make sure you hit the like. Now, let's get it. Okay, I repeat. This is the Jeffrey Dahmer's last interview that he had when he was in jail. We all know who Jeffrey Dahmer is. Basically, should know because it was a Netflix movie that was out. A man who basically lured men into his home and killed them and ate them. Let's get it.
One, Milwaukee police finally discovered the horrendous secrets that Jeffrey Dahmer had been desperately hiding for many years. Acting on a tip from a young gay man who escaped from Dahmer's apartment, police searched number 213 and found a chamber of unimaginable horrors. Human heads and a heart wrapped and bagged in the freezer. Hands and feet at the bottom of his soup kettle. Skulls tucked away in a file cabinet, and this blue barrel stuffed with dismembered torsos soaking in acid. Dahmer would spend the next 24 hours confessing, telling in vivid detail of a murder spree that began in 1978 when he was 18 and ended with 17 young men dead.
I had this reoccurring fantasy of meeting a hitchhiker on the road and of taking him hostage and doing what I wanted. And I never in my wildest nightmares thought that it would become a reality.
Why would Dahmer have, as he put it, created his own Holocaust? How did he become so filled with evil? It would be comforting to point to an abusive childhood, an early life filled with hatred or horror, but his was filled with love.
Jeff was the most beautiful, darling, sweetest baby, the nicest young boy.
Baloney.
You hear this crap, Jack? See, this is what I'm talking about.
It's baloney.
These people are enablers. This is why I want to focus on this, because the parents is totally in denial. And I hope everybody, was able to watch the series. Or even if you didn't watch the series, there's plenty of, movies and stuff from Jeffrey Dahmer, so you can find out more. But this is ridiculous. Okay, I resume.
When he was growing up.
Imagine your child grows up to be a murderer. Would you still love him? Would the guilt and sense of responsibility be overwhelming? Jeffrey Dahmer's parents have struggled mightily to understand what might have gone wrong with their child. His father's search for an explanation led him to look inward, even to write a book simply titled A Father's Story. But his search may be in vain, because even the experts and profilers who've studied serial killers are baffled by why they do it.
There doesn't seem to be any indication in any of the serial murderers that something external makes them want to kill. It's as if something is thrown, a switch is thrown, and they begin on the pattern of what their pattern will be.
Maybe all we can do is what Lionel Dahmer did: look back and try to see what went wrong. As a young child at the beach with his parents, Jeffrey Dahmer discovered a dead crab. He examined it with a child's curiosity, but later the curiosity grew into something unthinkable.
All I know is that I wanted to see what the insides of these animals looked like.
Pause it right there,
There may
Donna.
have been some violence involved, some underlying
This guy could have been a doctor, but he chose to be a world famous serial killer. This guy had the ability to become a doctor, a surgeon, and could have been world renowned.
That's
Could
true.
have been the most famous world renowned Dr. Jeffrey Dahmer. But instead of taking that gift and surgically, splitting things apart and seeing what's inside and putting it back together, he chose to do it in the most vicious and heinous way. And I know that last night on Clubhouse they had the guy who killed Dahmer in prison son interview, and I advise people to go and listen to that interview on the Clubhouse on the 100 ENT show, Whack 100. Very interesting interview about the guy who killed Jeffrey Dahmer son when he was in prison. And I hope that young man who's the hero who killed Dahmer son write a book, because he needs to take advantage of it.
Mm. Okay, resume.
conscious feelings of violence. It was a compulsion. It became a compulsion.
Jeffrey Dahmer got bigger, and so did his compulsion to look at the insides of living things. He began to kill them, satisfying powerful urges that he didn't understand.
In ninth grade, in biology class, we had the usual dissection of fetal pigs, and I took the remains of that home and kept the skeleton of it. And I just started branching out, dogs, cats. I suppose it could have turned into a normal hobby like taxidermy, but it didn't. It veered off into this.
More and more, Dahmer killed animals in the woods behind his house. He knew it was wrong, but he couldn't stop. Then, at 14 or 15, it got worse.
I don't know, it became a compulsion, and it switched from animals to humans.
And if you read about these cluster B personality disorders, these sociopaths, psychopaths, and narcissists, stuff, they say that you watch them when they're children, when they have a thing of hurting animals and killing them. That's not a good sign. Kids don't do that. That's a big red flag, and this is what he was doing. And the parents knew, but they just let it go. All right, resume.
I still don't understand it. I don't know why.
If your fantasy life as a teenager includes killing, who do you tell?
From about 15 years on up, a great deal of my thoughts were basically unshareable with anyone. So I just closed myself off and just put on a mask of normalcy.
As Jeffrey Dahmer entered adolescence, his secrets multiplied. He began to feel attracted to other young men. It was not an issue he could talk to his father about, but Jeffrey knew he was gay.
Started having obsessive thoughts of violence intermingled with sex. And it just got worse and worse. I didn't know how to tell anyone about it, so I didn't.
And just as Jeffrey was becoming aware of his internal violent sexual urges, his external life began to unravel. His parents' marriage, which had been rocky throughout his childhood, finally ended. He found himself alone more and more. And then one night, while his mother was away on a trip,
I think this is the picture, the class picture when he, if anybody watched the movie, when he snuck in there to take the picture, and the whole class was upset saying he has a 1.1 average. How was he in here? Oh my gosh.
Photo bomb.
Yeah, it's a typical narc, sociopath, psychopath. This is what they do. This is what they do to get attention. Resume.
and his father newly moved into a motel down the street, a fantasy Jeffrey had been having for years came true, and the killing began.
I was 18 years old, driving home. Uh, I saw this hitchhiker about a mile from my house, and he caught my eye. I drove past him, thought to myself, should I stop and pick him up, or should I just keep on going? I wish I just kept on going, but I didn't. Turned around, picked him up, and that's when the nightmare became a reality. It just seems so bizarre to me that this obsession that I had been thinking about and wanting, just all the parts are there, and they make it possible to make it happen. Just at the time when it could happen, when there's nobody at the house for 2 weeks.
After the first time he murdered, Dahmer says that he tried to get control of himself, and for 6 years he did not kill again. In 1984, he found himself living in Milwaukee, frequenting gay bars, when the violent sexual urges overcame him again.
I met this guy at one of the bars, downtown Milwaukee bars. We went back to the hotel, just planning on getting drunk. I had put some sleeping pills in his drink to render him unconscious, and was just going to spend the night with him. When I woke up in the morning, my forearms were bruised, and his chest was bruised, and blood was coming out of his mouth. He was hanging over the side of the bed.
This type of behavior and the urge that develops, it's triggered. It doesn't go in cycles. It may be a place that he's in that reminds him of something. It may be something that he hears. It may be a certain season. It may just be a color. It's intimately connected with memory and previous experiences and something that goes on at an unconscious level.
Whatever it was, it came over Dahmer almost like a dream.
I have no memory of beating him to death, but I must have. And that's when it all started again. I had no intention of hurting him at all.
How could Dahmer not remember? It's hard for a normal person to imagine. But Dr. Helen Morrison believes that the brain functioning of serial murderers is unique.
Part of his mind is split off. Again, we have this piece of this puzzle that's somewhere that doesn't connect with the thinking part or the logical part. It's not far removed from those of us who drive every day and we drive the same route and we don't know how we got from point A to point B. We know we did it, but it doesn't enter our consciousness.
Unlike other serial killers who seem to actually derive satisfaction from the killing, Jeffrey Dahmer says he did not. His motivation, his objective was sexual. He wanted to create a sexual slave that he could totally control. And to that end, he performed the most horrific of experiments on his victims, literally drilling holes in their head.
I tried to create living zombies with uric acid in the drill, but it never worked. No, the killing wasn't the objective. I just wanted to have the person under my complete control to do with as I wanted.
Dr. Helen Morrison, who profiles these men, says part of the reason is because serial killers like Dahmer literally feel things differently than a normal person.
To the serial murderer, it's very similar to the young child who may pull the legs off of a daddy long legs or a fly to see what happens. There is no humanity there. It's just, oh, this is a very interesting thing. They do things to individuals that they've never experienced themselves. They want to see pain, or they want to see fear, or they want to see agony.
And with Dahmer, that experimenting included what had to be the most shocking part of this case. He sometimes ate his victims, an idea abhorrent to anyone with even vaguely human sensibilities. And yet here again, Dr. Morrison says that in fact, Dahmer's behavior makes a peculiar kind of psychological sense.
Jeffrey Dahmer was not the only individual who was a cannibal or bit his victims or used teeth as a weapon. If you remember about infancy, if we go purely psychologically, the only way an infant interacts with his world around him is through touch, feel, and teeth. And this is a way that babies explore their world with their mouths. That's what they use. That's how they relate to the world. And what is evident in all of the serial murderers is this trait of very oral or mouthing or biting or eating, ingesting, which is highly infantile.
Basically, what she's saying, that what I'm getting from it, he didn't grow out of it. He's still stuck in that phase.
But it seems to be a way in which they can be with their victim.
It made me feel like they were a permanent part of me. Besides the just mere curiosity of what it would be like, it made them feel that they were a part of me, and it gave me a sexual satisfaction to do that.
By the late 80s, Dahmer had spiraled completely into a free fall of killing. A serial killer was on the loose in Milwaukee, but why wasn't anyone noticing? Serial killer profiler Robert Ressler says it was easy for Dahmer to hide.
He was fairly good looking and very shy. And I think I've often said that in any college group, you could put him right in the middle of a college group and probably you would look at him as a decent young man.
And that was Dahmer's most powerful weapon in luring his victims into his world. 17 in total. They had several traits in common. They were all men, all young, mostly minorities, and almost all were gay. Starting in 1984, one by one, these men disappeared. But nobody in Milwaukee had any idea that a serial killer was on the loose. Annie Schwartz is a crime reporter for the Waukesha Freeman newspaper in Milwaukee.
It was very much business as usual before Jeffrey Dahmer was caught. Because of the nature of the victims, the kinds of people that he chose, they were people that for the most part, weren't missed by their families. They were often people who were tossed aside by their families because they were gay or they had had problems with the police. He chose his victims very carefully. He chose people that wouldn't be missed.
If families were not missing the victims, Jeffrey Dahmer's family was missing.
And you remember that's what we was discussing, Jack. He chose his. He really did chose his victims carefully. When you watch this, he really did. He knew what he was doing. He's completely out of his mind, but on the other side, he's extremely intelligent. This is what's crazy about these people. Resume.
Clues that something was terribly wrong. There were close calls, like this one with his father, Lionel.
I had a box in my bedroom closet, and it contained the mummified head and genitals of a young man I met in one of the bars down in Milwaukee. And it was a locked metal box. My dad one week came to visit and happened to see it, and he was wondering what was in it. He didn't know. Nobody knew. I told him it was pornography, some magazines. And he wasn't satisfied with that answer. We got into a bit of an argument because I wouldn't open it up. He took the locked box down to the basement and was about to smash it open. I came back in the house. We reconciled.
The reconciliation with his father would mean the lies would go on and that Jeffrey Dahmer would continue to hunt down victims in the gay bars of Milwaukee and kill them. But in a city with a relatively low crime rate, why were the police not connecting the murders? Dahmer's seeming normality helped him hide his reign of terror.
People like Dahmer can get away with this easier because law enforcement does not recognize him for what he is. They're looking for somebody who's dragging their knuckles on the pavement and baying at the moon with hair in their face. They're not looking for Mr. Nice Guy, the quiet young man living in the neighborhood.
But there may have been something more to why the murders went unnoticed.
Okay, hi. I'm on 25th and State, and this is young man. He is butt naked. He has been beaten up. He's very bruised up. He can't stand. He's study fall out. He is butt naked. He has no clothes on. He was really hurt. And I ain't got no cord on him. I just seen him, and he needs some help.
Where is he at?
On 25th and State, the corner of 25th and State.
He's just on the corner of the street?
Yeah, he in the middle of the street. He fell out. We tried to help him, so people trying to help him.
Okay, and he's unconscious right now?
He getting him up, but he is bruised up. Somebody must have jumped on him and stripped him or whatever.
The call is about this young man, Conorak Synthesin phone. The voice is that of a neighbor, Glenda Cleveland, who spotted the young man trying to escape Jeffrey Dahmer's apartment. Dahmer had already tried to perform his crude sex zombie experiment on the 14-year-old, drilling a hole in his head and pouring in acid. Drugged, bleeding, dazed, the young man had somehow managed to get away from Dahmer and yell for help. The police did come. Jeffrey Dahmer told the police that Synthesin phone was his 19-year-old lover, with whom he'd been quarreling. The police went into Dahmer's apartment, saw nothing amiss, and returned the boy. The police then radioed back to the station, joking about what they had seen.
The intoxicated Asian naked male.
Yes, my life with a shot. Hey, blessings, good to see you, brother. Yes, this is the original audio when the neighbor kept calling the police and trying to let them know that something is not right next door. But yeah, this is original audio. Everything.
Was returned to his sober gonna get deloused at the station.
A month later, when Jeffrey Dahmer was arrested, he admitted to killing Synthesophone shortly after police left. The death would cost the two police officers their jobs and would force the entire city to look inward at attitudes and treatment of minorities and gays. There would be candlelight vigils and city-decreed days of healing, but Jeffrey Dahmer would leave a black mark on Milwaukee.
The place where Dahmer's apartment building stood was raised and put a playground in, raised all kinds of money from the community, and no one in the community wanted to use this playground because they said it was the devil's playground. I think that the city of Milwaukee, at the end of the Jeffrey Dahmer case, was left with the unfortunate realization that it can happen here. It being whatever horrific thing that you see on the news that you think happens in other places and to other people. It was the sad realization for people that live in the city of Milwaukee that it could and did happen here.
But of course, the deepest scars would be reserved for the victims' families and the family of the murderer.
Never, Jeffrey! Jeffrey, I hate you! That's out of control! Don't with me, Jeffrey. I kill you. Look at me, you took my mother's.
How can anybody forget that scene? I remember that emotional scene in the court because I do remember watching some of this court footage. What a shame. Resume.
Oldest grandchild from her. And for that, I can never forgive you. I hope you can deal with what you've done.
The families of Jeffrey Dahmer's victims had their day in court and an opportunity to address him. Jeffrey Dahmer sat motionless throughout. His father, Lionel, sat behind him. Jeffrey's crimes had been a terrible shock for him, so much so that for the first 24 hours after he learned of them, he didn't believe Jeffrey's confession.
How can you see your son who's been riding a tricycle and running around with his dog Frisky and playing tennis with me, taking a knife and cutting a person open, and then doing sexual things with it? It's pretty hard.
Those who profile serial killers can understand why Lionel would have such trouble reconciling his baby boy with the adult killer who would perpetrate such sickening crimes.
We do know that when puberty comes, the ages of 13, 14, 15, that the hormones seem to interact with the brain chemistry, and we have no idea what that's doing or where it's coming from.
I think probably there was a mixture of feelings of anger and hate and disappointment and also feeling extremely sorry for what he did. Felt very sorry for victims and their families
Donna.
and also for Jeff. The terrible way.
I'm gonna be honest. Yeah. Before this, I watched a little bit about how Jeffrey Dahmer would do these killings in a satanic, ritualistic manner.
Because it didn't, because the mother found some stuff in his closet, some devil worship. I think that's when she, not the mother, the grandmother. Yeah, and she
some ancient satanic ritualistic things, like it was ritualistic, even one of the Podesta brothers, Tony Podesta, John Podesta's brother, who was Hillary Clinton's assistant, even has a statue of that same man that was executed the way Dahmer did, when he had his, naked and had his body flipped over in the bed. The Podesta has that same statue.
Oh. Interesting. Okay, resume. It's almost done, ladies and gentlemen, and then discuss the different family members. Resume.
Both Lionel Dahmer and Joyce Flint, Jeffrey's mother, struggled to find a way to support their son in the face of his crimes. a brutal task for any parent to endure.
There's something or things so deeply locked up in his mind that even he doesn't know what's going on. And therefore, I have to hug him.
It's almost like I don't have a right to mourn or grieve because there are all these families who will never, ever speak to their children again.
By all accounts, Jeffrey Dahmer seemed to be relieved that he had been caught. He cooperated thoroughly with authorities and a battery of doctors and profilers who wanted to learn more about his behavior.
What was uncontrollable about Jeffrey Dahmer was the urge. It was the urge he couldn't control. It was the craving he had to satisfy. And that's why when he killed, he killed because he couldn't satisfy the urge any other way and had to do it immediately.
And this is something Dahmer seemed to know better than anyone. At his sentencing, he read a statement of apology for his crimes.
Your Honor, it is over now. This has never been a case of trying to get free. I didn't ever want freedom. Frankly, I wanted death for myself. This was a case to tell the world that I did what I did not for reasons of hate. I hated no one. I knew I was sick or evil or both. Now I believe I was sick. I know how much harm I have caused. I tried to do the best I could after the arrest to make amends, but no matter what I did, I could not undo the terrible harm I have caused. I know I will be in prison for the rest of my life.
The rest of Jeffrey Dahmer's life would last less than 2 years. In November of 1994, a fellow inmate of Dahmer's beat him to death. The killing occurred in a 20-minute period when the men were unguarded. Although Dahmer expressed repeated remorse for his actions, in the last interview he granted before his death, he made a stunning admission that he still had fantasies of killing.
It never completely goes away. I'll probably have to live with it for the rest of my life. I wish it would go away. I wish there was some way to completely get rid of the compulsive thoughts, the feelings. It's not nearly so bad now that there's no avenues to actually act on it. But no, it never seems to go completely away.
Okay, back there. That was the end of that video. I just wanted to show a video because give you a little idea of what the movie is about, the crimes that this monster did, and also you get to hear the father, a little bit of the father and the mother. Now, this movie was basically because at first I could understand when it first came out. I was like, oh my gosh, here we go, another Jeffrey Dahmer movie. I done seen all of them, right? And I'm like, well, what's the big hoopla about this one? But what I did like about it, I thought was interesting. You got to see the different dynamics of everything. You got to see more of the mother, more of the father, um, the father's new wife, and then the neighbor. Because one thing I was really curious about was the neighbor right here, the neighbor. Niecy Nash, she did an excellent job. I think she did a phenomenal job. So I was very interested, like, how do you deal with living next door to something like that? So that was good. I think that was number 7. It focused, it was episode 7, focused more of her living next door to this monster. Now I'm gonna show another clip. And this other clip I'm going to show is like under 2 minutes, and I just want to show the neighbor, the role that she played, the original one, Glinda something. I might have names off, so excuse me. You can put in the comment section to correct me if I got the names wrong. All right, so give me a second. Let me share that one. And we're going to show the neighbor.
Look at those animal eyes.
It really do. When you look
Yeah.
oh my gosh. Where is the Glinda? Okay. Now, ladies, I'm going to show the clip of the original lady. The original lady. Okay. Thank you, Lisa. Yes. Glenda Cleveland. I keep getting mixed up. Glenda Cleveland. Thank you for that one. All right. So let me show this clip real quick. Let's get it.
Hers was the voice of insistence, the voice of concern, the voice that fell on deaf ears. Tonight, Glenda Cleveland relives the frustration of being shut out by a police operator as she insisted the person being beaten was a child.
When I say what I have to say and I know it to be true, I don't feel that I have to constantly keep repeating myself. And I think that can be said for everyone.
Glenda Cleveland remembers the day Conorak died, remembers the police assurances that everything was okay. Did you start to doubt yourself?
I must admit I did. I did.
But do you feel they let that boy down that night?
Yes, they did. Yes. Yes, he was definitely let down. He was let down as low as he could get. And that was to his grave. He can't get much lower than that.
Grabbing at the young Laotian boy.
Hold a second, though. Pause it. Pause it.
In the morning.
I'm sorry to say this, but the real Glenda Cleveland is a lot slimmer and a little bit lighter than the character portrayed.
Yeah, that's true.
We need to get this stuff accurate, people. I mean, I'm being serious here. They should have put Niecy Nash on a diet for that role.
Okay, all right, Jack. Let me resume. Let me finish this video.
No, I'm just telling the truth.
Okay, all right. It was just acting. Okay, let's resume.
Well, you want to be real.
Morning of May 27th. That's when Tina Spively says she and her friend saw Conrad Simpson phone stumble and fall onto State Street. They ran up to him and noticed that he was bleeding from behind, and he appeared to be drugged at that time as well. That's allegedly when Jeffrey Dahmer grabbed at the boy, and Tina says she confronted him.
I was right up on him. I'm trying to threaten him to let him go. We like, we're gonna bust you in your stuff. Turn him loose. He don't want to be with you. Leave him alone. And then my cousin's like, just get out of it. It's none of your business. I said, but still, he needs help. I said, look, I'm doing like they gave him some dope or something.
Spivey's friend called police. By the time they arrived, Dahmer had allegedly carried Citizen Bone to this alley just off the 25th and State. But Spivey says the two officers quickly asked them to leave.
So, like I said, that was the clip I just wanted to show the original lady, and she basically, if you remember, I think it was number 7. They focused more on her, Glenda Cleveland, and all she kept doing was just calling and calling, and no one responded. No one's doing nothing to help her. Hold it just a second here. No one's doing it to help to go and check, because you know why they didn't care? Because due to the fact they didn't care, because look at the neighborhood, look at the race, and their sexual preference. If I guess I could say it that way, their sexual preference. They didn't care. Those cops been at that place for so many times, and that's ridiculous. Now, what I have to say about it with the cops, these people are trained professionals, detectives, all of them. They can tell by smells that something is not right. So how did you not know when you came into Jeffrey Dahmer's home that you did not smell dead bodies? I don't understand. You smell it all up and down the hallways. Nothing was done. She's complaining. She's complaining to the building manager, building management and everything, but nobody's doing anything. They just don't care. Because like the guy said, the building manager, he said, well, you know, yeah, exactly, Lisa. They didn't care. The building manager said, oh, he's a good tenant. He pays on time. Now, you see what I think was happening in that building. It's probably like a low income area or something like that. And, sometimes it's hard for people to catch up to pay their bills on time or pay their rent on time or to pay the full price. So here go Dahmer coming to him, Mr. Look all innocent type dude, quiet, keep yourself, he pay on time. So that was his leverage of getting away with the things that he was doing, because they don't want to lose that, steady rent money. What a shame. What a shame. All right, there was another clip I'm going to show you, but I don't even think I'm going to bother with that one because it was about with the mother. All right, so we're gonna get into it. So Let's talk about Dad. hmm I want to get into him. Now, if you remember in the movie, I don't know exactly what episode it was, but Dad actually confessed and said that he had these desires, the same thing like his son Jeffrey Dahmer's, right? And I think that's really spooky because sometimes they say a lot of these behaviors is hereditary or was taught, learned, whatever, something like that, right? And and he said he had the same thing. I'm like, whoa, this is kind of deep. So that was interesting. And then he also said in the movie, we don't know if it's all true or whatever, allegedly, but that somebody I think did an interview on Geraldo's show, that old talk show, and that was Jeffrey Dahmer's roommate, old friend or something. I can't remember exactly. You have to go back to the movie, look at which episode it was. But the guy was on interview Geraldo and said that, Dahmer's was molested by the father. We don't know if it's true or not. But then the father was upset. And you look at the movie, the Netflix movie, he was upset. Oh, they saying lies, lies, or whatever. So we don't know if it's true or not. But we definitely know what was true is the father was teaching, Dahmer, he was teaching him how to basically what they did. What was their hobby? Collecting roadkill. And you collect roadkill and hold a second. Yeah, collecting roadkill and bringing it to the house and dissecting it. What kind of crap is this? What is this father and son kind of bond? I never heard of such a thing. I never heard of it. So we see how he turned out from there. You have anything you want to say about what the dad, Jack, before I move on to my thoughts about good
He was
grandma?
Jeffrey was better off not having a father present in his life when he was young. He probably would have became a doctor instead of just killer.
Because their father really did some damage. And now I'll talk about the mother. She's not so much of a saint too, but the father. And then you can see when you watch the movie, he supported him in court. He's there with him. Are you flipping kidding me? I'm sorry. I'm just not going to be supporting my child like that. Lisa says that neighborhood is ridiculous with drugs and prostitution. Excuse me, prostitution. So that's why and I think that's another reason why, like I said, Jeffrey Dahmer's moved in that area because it was easy to get his victims. And what I'm going to talk about with him getting the victims. All right, well, let me switch on to the next one. Who else I want to focus on? Then we talk about the victims. Okay, let's talk about that's the mommy. Oh, let's talk about the mother. Let me get into the mother. Okay, Penelope Ann Miller played the role. So that's Jeffrey Dahmer's mother. And what was interesting, well, she was a pill popper. She did a lot of, doing pills and what they showed in the movie. She was even taking a lot of meds while she was pregnant. I thought that was really strange. Why would a doctor let her be on so much, pills? I think he said take about 12 pills a day or something, and you're pregnant. So that could have had some damage with Dahmer. We don't know. Possibility, maybe, maybe not, or whatever. Then they, like I said, they got their divorce, and they wasn't getting along, they wasn't together. And that period of time, I couldn't really understand that part too much, but I guess Dharma was alone for a couple of months. I guess that's when she had ran off with the other son. Because Dharma has a younger son that's 10 years old. And I was always curious about, excuse me, Dharma has a younger brother. His name is David. And I was always curious about the brother, like, where was he when all of this happened? But then I was informed something, that I think that he changed his last name. Do you blame him? Do you blame him for wanting to be a part of this? He's probably like they just crazy. And I kind of feel, like I said, I'm talking about the family. These are all my thoughts and opinions. And I'm saying the family dynamics with narcissism, sociopaths, and all of them. I feel like the father, like I said, he had it in him, and he knew. Like parents, they know in their children which one that they can use as a flying monkey they can groom to be like them. And I feel that Jeffrey Dahmer's father knew he saw something in Jeffrey and say, "Oh, he's the one I can do these things with." Because he probably tried to with the younger brother David, but the younger brother David could have been more like, "Oh, this is crazy. I don't be on there dealing with dead animals. Oh, you're just a punk. You're just going up there with your mother. That's probably what you want to just be with your mother. Can't be down here doing the man stuff." You see? So he probably was like the outcast to him. All right, now let's get into. I talked a little bit about the mother. I want to talk about good old grandma. Interesting. I think that was episode 4. I think I stand to be corrected. I think it was episode 4. That was very interesting about with grandma. So Jeffrey Dahmer, he gets in trouble. He fails in college. The father's so upset. He says, "You're going into the military." He goes into the military. Come to find out, he got himself a couple of victims in the military too. Yep. I wanted to find that clip, but I didn't. I should have brought that one up. So he goes into the military doing the same craziness and drugging people and you know, doing sexual things to these men. But he didn't kill him. No, not the military. I think it was 2 guys that came out and said about it. I think I stand to be correct. I'm not too sure. Right? So I guess the father was upset. So you're gonna go and stay with grandma. You can help out and everything. So now he's at grandma's house and he's going to the gay bars, meeting these men, bring them to the house, and he's killing them in her basement. The house has to be smelling like dead bodies. Are you kidding me? You don't know what's happening? Enabler, enabler. She knew something was happening, but she just didn't want to admit to it. Now, if you remember this guy here, that was one of the guys that he brought over to grandma's house. And the reason why, because the guy's car had broke down, he needed a battery boost, and Dom was passing by, and he said, "Oh, I'll give you a boost. Just come on over, and I'll get my car, and then come on over here and start your car." I was like, "Oh, okay, fine." So we went over there. Dom was trying to make a move. The guy's like, "Look, I'm just here just to get my car started. I'm not into it. I'm not trying to get with you." But Dom tries, he drugs him. So now grandma comes downstairs and like, "Oh, you hang with black people now?" Hmm. The boy's passed out on there, so he's like, called a doctor. I mean, take him to the ambulance. Oh, grandma! So he's shouting at grandma. So the boy stays over, and grandma's sitting there saying she stayed with him overnight to watch him, and you just let him just get on the bus. I don't understand that. That just didn't make sense. Something wrong with grandma too. You see, this boy was out of it. Should have immediately called. If she would have did that, it could have stopped a lot of killings. But no, she didn't. No, she didn't. She didn't care. I want to talk about this stepmother. Jeffrey Dahmer's father's new wife, Molly Ringwald. I didn't even know that was Molly Ringwald. Oh my God, she played this role well. She looks so different. I don't understand. How could you even be with this man, married to this man? The son is a psychopath, kill people, eat them, and then he tells you, he confessed to you that he had those desires himself. Hmm. Something about her character too. I never understood either. I can't understand that one. Now I want to get into this other guy. Which one? Him? I forgot the name of the guy that's here. Now the one with the darker shirt, right? That's the one that the neighbor was calling because he seen him outside and blood coming from his head or whatever, like that. Now the one that's next to him, his brother. His brother was, sexually assaulted by Dahmer. They went to court and everything. There's a picture like they was in court. And I don't understand. How would you go to Dahmer's house? Because Dahmer goes by, sees the younger brother, didn't know it was the younger brother, offered him some liquor, so he go over to the house. And I don't understand. This guy attacked your brother. You go over to his house. I don't understand the family dynamics in that one. That just didn't make a lot of sense at all. And then he dies. hmm And what I also want to talk about was all these victims. And what's so sad about it? I mean, they taught us since we was. Now, I'm not trying victim shaming. Please don't go there with me. Yeah, I'm trying to understand. They taught us since kindergarten. Don't go with strangers. Don't talk to strangers. Be careful. People know they go out to bars, parties, and stuff. Never leave your drink unattended. Watch people leave together. Don't just go off with strangers. And when I'm just watching the movie, every one of these men he just meets, he buy him a drink or two, and the next thing you know, he whispers in their ear, "You want to come over to my place?" And they go, and now they dead. I just don't get it. It's not like you coming out of a store and then somebody runs up to you and they attack you and they grab you and grab you inside, and it's just so sad. So ladies and gentlemen, you have to be careful. Like you can't just be going off anybody you just meeting. Person offer you a couple of drinks. Are you kidding me? Now all these people is gone. And would have still been, it'd have been still more killing because he wouldn't have stopped. But due to the fact the last one, oh gosh, I forgot the guy's name, the last guy, um, him breaking out, he escaped. And Dom was known to have several locks on his door. And when the guy was running out, the lock that he unlocked happened to be the only lock that Dahmer had locked. So he was, he escaped, and that's when the cops came and they realized all kind of, human stuff in the refrigerator, on the counters, and etc. etc. So yeah, but he should have been stopped a long time ago. So I fault the police department. That just doesn't make sense. But when they did get sued, I don't think it was much, and two officers I think they were suspended, but they ended up coming back because if the cops would have did something earlier, so many victims, it wouldn't have been so many victims, not at all. Oh, they would listen to the neighbor when she was complaining about the smell. Everybody had to be smelling up and down the hallways. Everybody. You can tell the difference when something is burning or whatever and a body, get out of here. But they just didn't care because of the color of their skins and their sexual preference. That's the bottom line. And that's why they was all dead like this. All right, Jack, would you like to share your thoughts? You have anything you want to say? I'm basically about to close it out here. Jack? I guess not.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
What you was asking?
No, I'm saying I'm about to close out. Do you have anything you want to share your thoughts on this one?
Jeffrey could have been Dr. Jeffrey Dahmer, but he decided to choose violence and murder and necrophilia and this weird, unusual method of behavior. It's weird. It's weird. I personally believe if the father wasn't at the home, he probably would have never been this type of individual.
Mm-hmm.
But since his father was there, motivating it, pushing it, you know, kind of encouraging it, now look where he is now.
That's why I say with the family, the dynamics. The father introduced it, kept doing it. The mother was like, "What are you all doing downstairs in that basement?" He's doing the same crap at grandma's house. He came over to grandma's house smelling, you could smell his dead bodies, but he didn't do anything. He had so many enablers, and that's why he kept getting away with the things that he was doing. Basically, said officers enable him too. They didn't do anything.
Well, they
Everybody
didn't
did.
give it. They didn't care. I mean, think about it. Not only is a underserved neighborhood, but also they're underpaid.
Oh, I forgot. Yep. hmm You have a point there. So they really just didn't care. Just didn't care.
No.
And every time, that's why I like that episode 7 so much. Just the neighbor, like, just to hear drills. She was hearing drills, saws, screaming, and everything next door. And she's calling and calling the cops, and nobody's doing anything. They didn't care. They just didn't care. That was insane. Oh my God, she has to be still traumatized to this day. But they condemned the building. They told everybody to move out. I think they gave them some money to move somewhere else or something like that. So the building is down. And if I'm correct, I don't think they put anything there. I think it's just an empty lot. I think so. They never replaced it, but they eventually took down the whole building.
Keep the
Monstrous.
whole building up where you had somebody who was preying on young boys and
hmm
bodying them. Why keep that building up? I mean, that's just full of Satanism in that building.
You have a point. You have a point.
I mean, look at those animal eyes right there.
hmm
I mean, that's just look at his eyes. Look at him.
They dead. It's dark.
Yeah.
Dark and creepy. It's just dead and dark and creepy. Yep. So a lot of times, like I was saying before, that I'm gonna give my closing thoughts on this one. And thank you, Jack, for being here. I appreciate it. I appreciate. Thank you. But the reason I want to get into, I just like I said, I want to talk about with the family, how families can be enablers to these children's, being crazy, sociopaths, psychopaths, narcissists, everything. And he had it in his family. His father and his grandmother, big time. Yep. That's why he got away with so much. I mean, he got, and like I said, it's another red flag when you have children and when they want to harm animals, kill animals when they little. That's not normal. And keep doing it. But he was doing it with dad. That was their father and son time to bond.
Well,
That's completely
I'm
insane.
sorry. I'm sorry. I, I'd rather for them just to stick to killing with animals instead of humans.
No, no, I'm just saying is, well, Dharma just upgraded it. Yeah, if you get what I'm saying. But I see what you're saying. Yeah, he just upgraded it, and Father said he had those tendencies too, that he had those feelings too. So I guess he didn't act on it. So this was his thing to do, and he did it with his son. But his son took it to a whole next level. And there's no way in this world, sir, I would not be sitting here with my son or daughter, anybody, my child, you doing these horrific things. I mean, they actually, it's not you can't prove he did it. They pulling out dead bodies out of your son's apartment. We saw the clip. No, I can't support you, but you still support him. Even when he went to jail briefly, what was it? They put him in some sort of um health facility. I don't know what it was. Somewhere they put him because he attacked that when he attacked this guy's brother, one with the white shirt, for a year, and said, "Oh, it's just alcohol." Oh, I didn't like the way the judge handled that, but that's a whole another thing, whatever. But yeah, and he still supported him doing that. Nah, I'm sorry, just couldn't do it. Too many enablers, too many enablers in the family, and this is why a lot of these, the children grow up to become monsters. That's what he is a monster. He's a full blown psychopath. He doesn't have no remorse. He doesn't have no guilt. He doesn't feel anything. He doesn't have the emotions, and he said he wasn't going to stop. And the sad part to me, I know people say, "Oh, I'm glad that he's dead." I really wanted him to survive because he wanted to die. He even said it. He wanted to die. He wanted to let you care, kill me, kill me, kill me, want to die because he can't stand the fact that he has to live in jail and he can't kill and eat people. So he got his wish, unfortunately, and he's dead. Mm-mm-mm. Yep, just like that other nut that was over there in Cleveland, Ohio, that kidnapped and had those three girls in house for years. It was almost 10 years. Sicko, and he died unfortunately. I don't know they killed him or suicide. I can't remember. I don't know. All right, so thank you, held you here. I didn't want to go past an hour, but thank you everybody for being here. Thank you for engaging, and like I always say, stay narc free. Stay away from these narcissists, sociopaths, psychopaths, all of them, because they're all dangerous, completely dangerous. They're out of their flipping mind. And unfortunately, there's another Jeffrey Dahmer that's out here as we speak, and he just haven't got caught. It could be a next door neighbor, it could be a pastor, school teacher, the corner store, the owner of the corner store. You just don't know. It's out here. What a danger. Okay, so be careful. And like I said again, stay narc free and stay tuned for some more of Narc Sociopath Abuse Clarity, where I talk all things narcissism, sociopath, in the workplace, in dating relationships, family dynamics, all over. And the whole goal is to hopefully give you some sort of clarity. And if you need any coaching or need advice, anything, or viewers requests, feel free to email me and just give me a little time and I will put it out there. Thank you, Jack. Bye.